Well, good evening, everyone. Michael Soothing here, coming to you with crooked glasses as usual. Tonight I thought we would talk about coins, but not, the pocket change that's made out of cheap zinc and tin and whatever other kind of crap they put in coins these days, but instead, that's pretty much worthless. But instead, I thought we would talk about, I like to collect coins. I used to have quite a collection, and somebody requested that I do more videos on the coin collection. I've done a couple videos in the past, but that was when I first started doing ASMR. So I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage because, not just because I need a sip of water, because my eyes are not quite as good as they used to be. I don't have my magnification loupe or anything to help me explain some of the things about the coins. I'm going to have to acquire another one on Amazon or someplace, because some of my stuff from moving to Oregon is still packed away. And you might think, that's awfully lazy not to unpack it, since I'm supposed to be talking about coins during this monologue. Let me hold up a nice coin for you to see, and then I'll continue. There, you can look at that nice, beautiful coin while I continue to ramble pointlessly about my woes of housing. The reason why I don't have my magnification loupe and have not unpacked everything is not just pure laziness, although I won't deny that I might have a little bit of procrastination in me from time to time. It's because I'm looking already for new housing. The reason for that being, I'll tell you in my disaster video that I make sometime. But I'm going to buy a decent home in the fairly near future, certainly within the next few months. So things that I don't really need to use for a while, I'm not going to unpack, The decorative items I haven't seen for years or whatever. I'll just wait until I move. Some of my books, stuff like that. I'll tell you what this is. This is a 1-ounce silver bullion proof coin, American Eagle. Look how reflective that is. You know I like shiny objects. A proof coin is a coin that is struck with special dies. Let me pop this out of its protective case. Oh no, don't come out of your plastic holder. I don't want it coming out of its holder, because then I might touch it inadvertently. I told you in another video, don't touch the surface of a coin. This has a plastic case over it, so it's okay. If it is an uncirculated coin, you're going to ruin the value of it if you touch the surface of the obverse, which is the front, or the reverse, which is the rear upside down. It's a reverse whether or not it's upside down, actually. And the reason being that the oil in your fingers, even if you think you have clean hands and have washed them, has amino acids in it that will start eating away at that silver. It's a subtle effect, but any expert can see it under magnification, and they will know whether the pristine surface of that coin has been touched. And it can make the difference in a rare coin. That could make the difference between a $10,000 coin or a $500 coin. I kid you not. They could look exactly the same to your unaided eye, but if one got touched on the surface and one didn't by a human finger, an expert can tell. You might think they can't, but they can. So keep this in mind, and also, here's a general rule I'm going to repeat in case any of you ever decides to collect coins, or you find some when your grandparents pass away or something like that. A collectible coin should never be cleaned. Don't take that silver coin that has an oxide layer on it and think you're going to dip it in silver dip and make it worth more. Because what you're really going to do is make it worthless, or at least worth less than it would be otherwise. Take my word on it, okay? Too many people make that error if they don't know the world of coin collecting. They find an old batch of Morgan silver dollars or something that great grandpa saved, right? And they go, oh, look, there's tarnish on them. Let's clean them and they'll be worth a lot more. And then they destroy the entire value of the coins because, you see, silver cleaner is really an acid that eats away the surface of the coin, and collectors want that coin in its as close to its original condition as possible. Now, I'm rambling way too much instead of telling you things about coins. So let's talk a little bit about, this is going to be more like an intro to coin collecting. So I'm going to start with modern coins. Like, this is a collectible, but it's not a rare collectible. The U.S. Mint made a lot of these. What's the date on this thing? Like I said, I don't have an eye loop. 1997. So if you're 20 years old, this would be a nice coin to have because it would be your birth year. They made these silver bullion coins, which are worth about the price of silver plus, $2 or $3. Okay, so currently, say $20 for a bullion coin. But if it's in pristine, uncirculated condition, it could be worth more than that. However, this is not just a bullion coin. This is a proof coin. You may say, well, what is a proof coin? Well, a proof coin is a coin that is struck with special dies that give you a mirror finish in the field. And then the devices, which means like the features, like Lady Liberty, are called the devices, or the sun that's rising over here, or the Liberty that's going around there in letters. That's the devices. They have a frosted appearance, right? Okay, so that would be a deep mirror proof-like finish. In an older collectible coin like a Morgan dollar, like an 1886, for example, Morgan dollar, a lot of them had a proof-like quality to them because they were very well struck. That would make those coins worth more than one that did not have a proof-like finish. But this is an actual proof, not a proof-like. So it's worth more than a bullion coin, but since so many of them were struck, it's not worth a lot more. This coin here, which is about 1 ounce of silver, is a reproduction of a beautiful $50 coin that used to be early part of the 20th century. I think they were minted from something like 1916 to 1940. I'm going to say 1946, maybe 1949. Now I'll have to go back, and I used to know all of this by heart. Now I'm going to have to go back and look it up. And it's called the Walking Liberty half dollar. I have some of those in my collection, and that's an actual collectible coin rather than just a bullion coin. I will pull those at some point and show them to you. But meanwhile, that's what the design looked like on that half dollar coin from the earlier half of the 20th century. And the reverse, however, is not the same. It was a different eagle on the reverse, not this one on the half dollar coin. All right, let's change our angle and talk a little bit about dimes. So hold on one moment. Oh, here's a little flyer that tells us a certificate of authenticity for that proof coin. And it says it's a 1997, which we already know, made at the Philadelphia Mint. Is Philadelphia the city of brotherly love? I think so. It is 99.9% pure silver. And I told you before, I think silver is going to go up in value over the next few years. It's 1 troy ounce. Okay? And what else? It's the Adolf Weinman design on the obverse. What I told you before, the Walking Liberty half, that we'll talk about in a future video. But what you want to be here for today is a relaxing look at some coins clinking around on my surface here, and so we're going to do that and talk about them a little bit, and then we'll come back and say good night after that, right? So hold on 1 second. All right, here we are. I have a box here that has some stuff in it, and let's see what we've got here. This is not the right size for dimes, and it doesn't feel right. So let's open it up and see what's in here. I think it might be nickels. Let's check it out. Sure enough, buffalo nickels. Do you know the buffalo nickel? It's got an Indian head design on the obverse, and then it's got a buffalo on the reverse. There we go. You know, there's one date in this series where the buffalo only has 3 legs because of a flaw in the die. That's worth a lot more money. These coins were made in the 20s and 30s and 40s, I think. Let's look at the date there. That one's in 1936, as you can see. And I don't know, I really like buffalo nickels. Sometime when I show you, the reason I'm able to handle these is because these are well circulated coins. So they don't have a high value of not being touched. These have all been in circulation and handled a lot. And also they're not made out of silver, so they're not going to oxidize. They're made out of course, nickel alloy. So that's why I'm touching them. although it's my habit to really only touch coins on the rim most of the time if I can get away with that. So let's see what some other ones are dated. That first one was, I think, a 36. Let's see what this is. If we can get it to focus. Another 1936. Let's see if we can find a different date. How about, oh, that one's a 36. Oh, here's a different date. It is a 37. So that is an 80-year-old coin that used to be in circulation a long time ago. And I don't know what Buffalo nickels are worth today. I haven't been following the coin market lately, but I know they're worth a lot more than a nickel because people want to collect these. Probably a tube is worth, I don't even know. I can't even guess. It might be worth $10 or $20 or something. I'll have to look that up and tell you later. Let's put those back because I really wanted to talk about dimes, really, in this particular video. And this is just an intro to collecting, where I give you a little bit of information. Later on, we'll go into more detail, and I'll bore you much more thoroughly, because I really love talking about coins, and I like to look at my collection once in a while. I forget for, like 2 years, and then I have to come back and enjoy looking at them again. So we'll put those back in their tube like that. This keeps them safe from getting, a lot of air contaminants and things oxidizing them. I put a little tape around it. I don't think I've looked in this tube for, 3 or 4 years at least. Let's see what else we got in here in our box. I don't have a lot in this box, but I have a lot more in the safe deposit. This looks like a tube of pennies, but I'm not going to save just any pennies. These must be wheat pennies. So let's take a look and see. Oh no, these are Indian head pennies. And I'll show you the design of these. So these are much older even than wheat pennies. These go back to the 1800s. And so let's take a look at a typical one. I'll talk more about these in some other video, but this one, come on, focus so I can see the date. I can't see it with my naked eye. 1904, there we go. There's the Indian head, so it's with the headdress, so it's kind of similar to the Buffalo nickel. And then on the reverse, you've got these wheat stock things and the 1 cent logo. Come on, you can focus. There we go. All right, so we'll talk about these in some future video, but not right now, because I wanted to just introduce you to dimes first. We'll put these guys back in their tube where they can stay warm and happy. Safe from the elements. There's a lot of, pennies are copper, so if you get too much moisture or they get around the wrong kind of plastic, this is safe coin plastic, but the wrong kind will make them all turn green. We don't want that. And also you don't want to use poly type coin flips to save coins, because your silver coins will form a green goo oxide on them. So be careful about that. Let's see what else is in here. Oh, look. Some kind of, I think that is a Mexican coin. 50 centavos. 1980. That's not a collectible coin, it's just one left over from a trip to Mexico. So we'll put that in there. What else do we have here? These are Roosevelt dimes, this roll. And I marked it as mint state 66 and 67. That means they're uncirculated dimes that have not been touched by human hands on their coin surfaces, only handled by the rim. And I'll show you what I mean. The DMPL means they're deep mirror proof-like, which means they're a high quality coin. These were just made as standard, dimes that used to be in circulation, but they're silver still. So these would be 1964 or earlier. I don't know what year these are, but I think they're 64 probably, before they started making dimes out of cheap crap metal. So let's see. Notice I will definitely be careful not to touch these dimes on their surface. I'll let them sit on the towel gently, but I'm only handling it by the rim. So let's see if we can get this in focus. And you can see that it's a pristine surface. And what is the year? The year is 1963, when they were still silver. And do you see how when I move it back and forth, it has a rotating sort of shine? That's called luster to a coin collector. They want to see that. That will be degraded if you clean a coin. You may think it looks shinier, but that luster will be gone that rotates on the surface of that coin. On the back, it's got this logo here, and later I'm going to read to you what these features are and what they mean. Okay, so you can see it's got that sort of proof-like luster on both sides. So without touching the surface of these coins, let's put them back into their tube where they can be safe and happy. Plus they won't be lonely because they'll be with each one of these dimes has 49 friends because there's 50 in a tube. So you see they can all hang out there together. We'll put that back there. Now here we have, what do we have here? Oh, this is more of the same. So I'm not going to open this roll of Roosevelt's silver content. These are 90% silver. The other 10% is like copper and stuff, but they're still quite valuable. Their worth is certainly, at least 10 times their face value. I think quite a bit more than that, actually, since these are uncirculated, pristine condition, never handled on the surfaces. But let's take a look at some older dimes, which are the so-called Mercury dimes. The BU stands for Brilliant Uncirculated, and this is a 1936. Let's see if it will focus. Yes. So there you see that one. It's got a lot of marks from the minting process, but it's still an uncirculated example. Not a particularly high quality uncirculated example, however. For that, we would have to go. Here's a 1937, and this one is an AU. That means almost uncirculated, which means it got touched sometime by someone. So even though you don't see obvious signs, high signs of wear down, it still got touched and it's obvious to a practiced eye. Here's a 1943, brilliant uncirculated. And it was about the time we were in World War II, right? So it's got a lot of history, doesn't it? This was minted during the war. You can see a tiny bit of oxide on it. We would not want to clean that off because it would ruin the value of the coin. Look at the reverse a little bit, which is an emblem that means peace and strength. Here, wait. It's got this logo, the bundle of sticks. I'm going to read you what the features mean. Oh, this was minted in San Francisco. See the little S down at the bottom? So close to where I used to live and used to visit that town. Here's a 1926. So this dime is getting close to 100 years old, but it's highly worn. Just a good condition dime, but not brilliant uncirculated, so it's not worth a lot of money. All right, so we'll put those in there. Oh, you know what I want to show you? Through magic, here are coins that have been shrunk. Uh-oh, battery died. So sorry for the interruption, but the camera battery died, and so I swapped in a fresh one. I was just getting ready to show you, and now I have a scratchy throat because the battery is the cause. Don't ask me why, but that's my conclusion. I will blame the battery. Here we have the world's smallest U.S. coins. See? Through magic, the quarter, dime, half, and penny, and nickel have all been shrunken down. See there? A full complement of coins, all magically shrunken down. They're just actually replicas, but pretty good replicas for their size. See, they had to put replica on there because some moron somewhere would mistake them for the real. Even the reverses are realistic looking. Someone did a nice job on this. So it's a great little conversation piece. Now I am going to change angles again and talk to you a little bit more, if you're not asleep yet, about dimes. Hold on just 1 second. All right, we're back now at an angle where we can discuss the coins just a little bit. Now, we'll start with these Roosevelt dimes, but they're silver, and then we'll work our way backwards a little bit. So, the Roosevelt dime, I'm going to pretend to know all this stuff off the top of my head, but really, I'm just reading from this crib sheet here, okay? So, you know my memory. All right, the dime in U.S. usage is a 10-cent coin. Duh. Okay, 1/10 of a U.S. dollar. The denomination was first authorized by the Coinage Act of 1792, so it goes back quite a ways, doesn't it? Like 230 years, right? The dime is the smallest in diameter and is the thinnest of all U.S. coins currently minted, being only less than a tenth of an inch, let's see, 0.7 inch in diameter and 0.05 inch in thickness. That's 1.35 millimeters for you folks in the EU, okay? The obverse of the coin, that's the front, remember, depicts the profile of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. That guy, you know, the president during the Depression and the start of World War II. And the reverse boasts an olive branch, a torch, and an oak branch. Let's take a look at the olive branch, the torch. Come on, focus. Focus. Focus, you can do it. It wants to focus on my finger instead. There we go. See the torch and the olive branch and the oak branch. I know I'm not holding that very steady tonight. From left to right, the dime now costs 5.65 cents to produce, and they don't even make it out of anything good anymore. It's just made out of, pot metal these days. So it costs almost as much to produce as what it's worth. The word dime comes from the French word dime. See, you think I'm making that up. Well, it's probably pronounced different though, like dime or something. And that means tithe or 10th part. You know how the tithe is considered 10%? So now you learned something, I'll bet, that you didn't know before. A dime means a tithe, right? In the past, prices have been quoted on signage. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's see what the design date. Yeah, they started this one in 1946, and we still have Roosevelt dimes to this day. Don't you think it's about time they changed to something else? I mean, it has been 70 years after all. But anyway, designer was John Sinnock. Now let's see. What else could we know about this one? Let's look at some previous designs. Like, one of the first dimes made was called the Draped Bust Dime, 1796 to 1807. They didn't make those for very long. Collectors like these. I don't have one, but eventually I'll get one. Draped bust. I've seen a draped bust. I'm saying dime, okay? And I've seen an undraped. Never mind. I don't want YouTube to censor. Okay, so the chief engraver was a guy named Robert Scott. The portrait of Liberty on the obverse was based on a Gilbert Stuart drawing. This is the part that's interesting. The lady, I guess the obverse was the eagle. See the eagle? And the reverse was patterned on this lady named, where is she? A Gilbert Stuart drawing of a prominent Philadelphia socialite named Anne Willing Bingham, wife of noted American statesman William Bingham. The reverse design is a small bald eagle surrounded by palm and olive branches. I've always wondered if a bald eagle would want to wear a hat, sort of like what I do. Anyway, all 1796 dimes have 15 stars on the obverse. I'll show you the 15 stars, representing the number of states that were then in the Union. I don't know if you can quite see and count them, but there they are. Okay, then we had the capped bust design. That came next. That was from 1809 to 1837, see? And let's see what succeeded that design. After that came the seated Liberty dime. And the obverse of that was from 1837 to 1891. So now we're getting past the Civil War, we're getting almost to the modern industrial age. And in this one, the obverse features an image of Liberty sitting on a rock, wearing a dress and holding a staff with a Liberty cap on top. Let me show you. She looks like that. Miss Liberty there. And here are some various iterations of that particular design, as you can see. And the reverse, let's see what it says about the reverse. Oh, and the inscription, of course, Liberty. The reverse featured the inscription, one dime surrounded by a wreath. Generally, a wreath would represent, peace and harmony and things. The seated Liberty dimes were 90% silver and 10% copper. And of course, that was the standard for silver coins all the way up until about 1964. 1965 is when they changed to having junk metal. So everything before 1964 will be your valuable silver coins. What else here? The reverse, yeah, okay, we said that already. There were 13 stars on this one, symbolizing the original 13 colonies, even though we had moved way beyond that by then. It was just a historical. Then after that, we get to the somewhat controversial Barber dime. The only reason I say controversial, there's nothing controversial about the look of the design. That's the Barber dime. What was controversial was it was a very plain and boring design, and they put it on every coin, not just the dime, for 50 years, because this guy Barber was running the mint, So it was on the dime, it was on the nickel, it was on the quarter, it was on the $50. It was the most boring period in U.S. coin history. That's why I say it was controversial. It had Miss Liberty on the front and a wreath on the back. She was wearing a Phrygian cap, a laurel wreath, and a ribbon, and a headband with the inscription Liberty. Liberty's portrait was inspired by two sources, French coins and medals of the period, as well as Greek and Roman sculpture. And they still had the 13 stars for the 13 colonies on the obverse. Okay, then we finally get to the winged Liberty head, which is always erroneously called the Mercury dime. This is the one that I have many examples of. That one there that I showed you, this one, this dime. But I have much better examples that I will show you in some future video. I have some that are certified coins, certified as not just uncirculated, but very high grade uncirculated that are worth, you know, between $30 to $100 or more for one coin because of the quality of the coin. And sometime I will show you a few of those, some of my favorite, even though they're small. Now, these aren't really, this is not Mercury. It's not the goddess Mercury, or the Greek god, whatever. It was meant to be a winged liberty head. So that's why everyone calls them Mercury dimes, but the design was supposed to be a winged liberty head, not the Roman messenger god, okay? The obverse figure is a depiction of the mythological goddess Liberty wearing a Phrygian cap, a Western symbol of freedom and liberty, and the wings are intended to symbolize freedom of thought. Don't you think we need a little bit of that these days? Freedom of thought? We don't seem to have that anymore. For some reason, a lot of folks think that we all need to think and believe alike and not question and debate and dialogue and research and study and push and pull with ideas objectively. Instead, we're supposed to all march in lockstep and not have freedom of thought. I rebel against that, no matter who is telling me to do it. Now, the guy who designed this is a guy named Weinman, and he had studied under the great Augustus St. Gaudens, who designed that beautiful gold coin, the St. Gaudens 1 ounce, which I will show you sometime. It's probably in the top 2 or 3 designs as far as a beautiful coin. Maybe the fact that it's solid gold has something to do with that, but I don't know. The reverse design of this coin, we were going to talk about that before. Let's look at the reverse for a second, if I can get it straight there. Now, if this will focus where you can see it, there we go. It features a fasces juxtaposed with an olive branch. That was intended to symbolize America's readiness for war combined with America's desire for peace. See that little axe thing at the top there? So, but the olive branch said, the axe and the fasces, this bundle of sticks said, well, hey, Adolf, we're ready for war, but we desire peace. So, don't mess with us. We want to be peaceful. We didn't want to get into World War I or World War II. Our European allies had to drag us in, kicking and screaming. In fact, we weren't even going to get into World War II until the Pearl Harbor incident. So, anyway, that's just hopefully a non-political aside. The fasces was later officially adopted by Benito Mussolini. Well, that's scary. But the symbol was common in American iconography and generally avoided any stigma associated with wartime Italy. Because we had it first, okay? So, the 1916D issue of the coin was quite rare, and so that is very sought after. I found one of those once in a big bag of silver dimes and got pretty good money for it. It was not a pristine coin by any means. The majority of the dimes were struck at the Denver Mint in 1916. The 16D is worth up to thousands of dollars in relatively fine condition. The one that I found when I was a kid was not in fine condition, more like barely readable, barely legible. It would be a fair, sub-fair condition, Be aware that any dimes that bear the date 1922 are counterfeit, because there were none. And if you have a counterfeit coin, it's illegal and can be confiscated by the government, so don't do that. Many coins in the Mercury series exhibit striking defects, most notably the fact that the line separating the bands is often missing in whole or in part. What they're talking about there is, let's see if you can see this. I don't know if we can do it at this resolution or not. There's, you see the bands that surround the bundle of sticks. Those bands should have a line in the center of them, and that's often missing if it's a poorly struck coin or a bad die. I don't know if you can see that, but that's what they're talking about. So a coin that has a fully split line is worth more because it's struck better on a better die. It's called an FSB, for full split bands. I've heard FSB used in other ways that aren't quite so kind, but I won't tell you that because we are on the new Disney version of YouTube. Alright, so there's a valuable variety, however, of a flawed dime, which is an overdate, where 1942 was stamped over a 1941 die at the Philadelphia Mint. And so that sometimes a rare defect will make the coin very valuable. Right, so I don't think we'll go much further into the rest of this, the controversy about the Sinnock design, the plaque of Roosevelt, which looks quite a bit different than how he looks on the modern dime. See there? It was supposed to look more like that, but neither one looks like the Roosevelt, very much like the Roosevelt I've seen in the old newsreels of him. They always showed him sitting down most of the time because he was handicapped, but he didn't want his enemies to know or to focus on that fact. And so, they would use various techniques, to avoid that for PR purposes. Alright, so that's kind of an introduction and more than you wanted to know about certain kinds of coins, but I find it relaxing to go through the collection and check things out. Uh-oh, I have an uncirculated Roosevelt that's lonely and by itself and needs to go back into its tube without being touched on its reverse or obverse surface. So we have it back in there now. Now he's back with his 49 friends, and he can be happy again. See, these are packed so tight they don't even rattle. I'll have to do a little clunk, updated research, and tell you what some of these coins are worth these days. I have not paid close attention. I do intend to buy some more silver coins before silver skyrockets in value, because it's somewhere around $17 to $18 an ounce these days. And I fully expect it to be $40 an ounce within the next few years, for a whole variety of reasons that we will go into in some future video, but not today. And don't run out and buy something on my advice for investment, because I am not your investment advisor. No. I am your what shall we call me? I am here to be your relaxation therapist. Let's just say that, to soothe you to sleep or into a state of relaxation, where your mind can drift off away from all of the stresses, anxieties, and troubles of the day. That's my job. Relaxation therapist. Can we add that to the ASMR? How about ASMRRT? Maybe I'll form a formal school for this and generate a credential for it. What do you think? That could be a lucrative occupation. Oh look, I didn't even see this. Where did this come from? When I was going through my stuff, I have this bag of pennies, but I don't have any idea why. Why do I have this bag of pennies? And I think they're modern pennies, so I have no reason why I should have them, because I don't keep and hoard pennies. Some of them are very shiny and nice. We'll talk about pennies in a future video, but for now I think this video is way too long, so I think that will help you get to sleep. I will say goodbye for now. Take care, everyone. Don't ASMR and drive. Bye-bye.